On this month's Spotlight Story, City Secretary Laura Hallmark drops by the new studio to discuss the upcoming May 2022 elections with the mayor. Let's take a look.
So happy to be having Laura Hallmark, City Secretary, joining me today. One of the many duties of your office is overseeing our local election process. So now that the November election cycle's passed us, it's time to gear up for the local election. When is that, Laura?
So, as you know, the City of Rowlett is on a 3-year election cycle. And the first of those years is 4 members of council. The next year is 3 members of council, and then that third year is a bye-year, which in years past the council has utilized as a bond package.
And the May 7th, 2022 election is the year where we have 4 seats up.
Correct. So we have the mayor's position and the even-numbered places, 2, 4, and 6.
So I'm termed out.
You are.
And
then place 2, Brownie Cheryl, is also termed out. Place 4, Whitney Lanning, is still eligible to run. And then also place 6, Martha Brown, is also termed out.
what do these places mean? People get really confused about that, so help us understand that.
They do. We get calls all the time. Who's my council member? Well, all 7 of you are their council member. And those place numbers are really just for place distinction for the ballot and for the seats at the dais. They're not geographic designations at all.
And so if somebody needs help in the city, go to the Action Center.
Correct.
But if you want to go to a council person or the mayor, we are all at large.
Correct.
Great. So Laura, if someone's interested in running for council, what do they need to know? Well,
first off, qualifications to be a candidate or be a council member. They need to be an active registered voter in the city of Rowlett. They need to have resided within the city for at least 1 year prior to the election. So if they moved to Rowlett May 6th, and then also to not be in arrears of any taxes to the city, unless of course it's under protest with the appraisal district.
To make sure they have their fines and taxes all paid up.
Correct.
Great. So where do they find out information on how to do this?
So there is a lot of information and things that people do need to know in order to run for council. And our office publishes a city council candidate guide, which will be available mid-December. Request forms for that guide will be available on the city's website. And once that person has reviewed the guide, which is a lot of information to take in, and if they do choose to become a candidate, the filing period begins January 19th. It ends February 18th, and then any last-minute people who's kind of on the fence, there's still that write-in deadline of February 22nd.
Which is not a very good option, because if you're going to run, you want your name on the ballot, not as a write-in, but you do have that. I assume that's part of state law that allows for that.
Correct. And there is a lot of information that gets turned in to our office when people file, and just filing doesn't end it. Our process starts. So we verify the petitions that people fill out with their applications. And so you do want to get that information in quickly, because you don't want to leave it for the last minute in case there are any issues.
Yes, and in years past, I noticed that once you get a petition, you verify all the signatures, and you try to get back to that candidate pretty darn quick if it's a valid filing.
Absolutely.
But if you file the last day and there's something wrong with your petition, you're kind of out of luck.
That's right. 5 o'clock is the deadline.
Right. So I've read these guides historically when I ran from council and then ran for mayor, and they're a little overwhelming, but very, very good information. And if you are interested and you start reading that and get a little overwhelmed, just go through it step by step. And it's all okay.
Right. Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
It's very voluminous.
It is a lot of information, but by no means is it comprehensive. I mean, there's still information that you can get outside of the guide, but our office is available to answer any questions, to help people along the way, and refer them to the different organizations or the subject matter experts for their questions.
Great. Now, okay, so someone's interested, they've read the guide, they've filed their petition, you then go through the validation process, and it's valid. Now what?
Now you're a candidate. And that can also be overwhelming for people. And, you know, where do you go from there? The city manager's office does host a candidate orientation for all candidates where he discusses the city operations, council's role as policymakers, and current topics or hot topics around the city that a candidate might need to know when they're out there campaigning for their position.
I find that so important. You know, those of us that are on council and, you know, we live and breathe this stuff. Not everybody out there can watch every council meeting or come to every council meeting. So that's a really good orientation session to try to help people get up to speed so they can be effective candidates.
Absolutely. And then ultimately effective council members. It's really eye-opening for some people to realize what all is involved to be a council member and council's roles and responsibilities in the city and staff's responsibilities. So it's very helpful, I think, for people to have that information.
Absolutely. And in addition to the candidate orientation session, I think there's things that happen during the election season to help candidates get the word out. What are some of those things?
Yes, along with their individual campaign strategy or practices, we have different organizations around town who offer candidate forums in order for the voters to get to know the candidates a little bit better. The Rowlett Chamber of Commerce hosts one, and I believe one of the political parties programs usually hosts one as well.
All right, so go through the petition process, the verification process, the campaigning process, election day comes. How does a winner get determined?
So the City of Rowlett City Council elections are based on a majority vote. So that is 50% plus 1. And in local government at our level, the 1 really does count. We have had a previous council election decided upon 1 vote.
And that was Michael Gallup's.
It was.
What happens if one candidate doesn't get 50% plus 1 vote?
So in the event that one of the candidates does not receive 50% plus 1, there will be a runoff election in June between the 2 who receive the most votes.
So tell us a little bit about how the public goes about making sure they can vote. Either it's early voting, election day voting, registration dates. Give us some of that information.
In order to vote in the May election, voters must be registered or update their information by April 7th. So that includes people who have moved to Rowlett. They need to make sure that their address is correct, or those newlyweds who need to make sure that their name is updated as well.
So where do our residents vote?
Well, Rowlett has a distinction of being located in 2 counties, Rockwall and Dallas. Since the counties have gone to a vote center format, they need to go to their respective counties to vote. So our Rockwall County residents who live in Rowlett will vote in Rockwall County, and then Dallas County residents will vote in Dallas County.
And you know, that's a change made a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. Time flies, so maybe it was a little longer than that, but we don't have any control over that.
No, because we do contract with the county election departments, and so we do have to go by their processes and format, and it really is a benefit to us to contract with them for those services, and actually going to the vote centers makes it really convenient for people because they're not limited to their precinct location any longer. They can vote at any vote center location in the county.
I know it is a little frustrating and inconvenient for our Rockwall County side to have to go all the way over the lake to early vote. Mm-hmm. And we recognize that, but it's out of our control.
It is, and you know, never say never. We're trying to locate something on our side of the lake for those Rockwall residents. So it is something that we're working toward.
And people need information about where to vote, when to vote. All this is on the website.
Yes, there will be a tab under government Under elections, there will be a page for the May election that will have all the information that they need and contact information, phone numbers, dates, times, and all of that stuff.
And early voting starts when?
It begins in April 25th, and runs through May 3rd. It'll be here before you know it.
Thank you so much for joining us. Lots of information. Thought it was a good time to talk about this since
Yes.
we have 4 seats coming up for election in May. Thank you, Laura.
It's definitely interesting.